that there are no free rides in this world, okay? You have to do something to get something, right? And it also taught me, so by the time I was 10 years old, and we were in this really wealthy neighborhood with, everyone had multiple number of cars and huge homes and all, lots and lots of help at home and everything. But I was doing odd jobs. I would run newspapers, I was do all sorts of things. And my neighbors sometimes would call me aside and say, is everything okay with your family? Why are you working, right? But I didn't care. So what I realized is that a girl can just about do anything, right? There is nothing like that, and there is dignity in labor, anything that you do. When I was 12, my father said that, my father and mother said that, you're not responsible for yourself alone. You're old enough now, go out there and support with your earnings another child to educate them. So I learned responsibility of someone else and someone else's future at a very, very young age. So at 12, I was already supporting my maid's son to educate himself from the work that I was doing, because my father was paying my school fees. So I had my money to spend on this. So that's what I learned at that age. Then what happened was that at 16, my father said, well, he gave me my last school fees, and he said, this is it. Now your education, if you wish to educate yourself further, is your own responsibility. So I said, my goodness, I don't even know what to do, because I was planning to go to Switzerland to study and, all sorts of things, and not possible. I didn't have the money all of a sudden. So Dad said, well, I lost my father at the age of 16, and I had a widowed mother and 4 brothers to look after. And I had nothing. You have a lot more than I had. What if something happened to me, and you had to look after, because you're my oldest child, your family? So I said, all right, so what do we do now? So he made me sign a promissory note and loaned me my airfare and one semester worth of fees to go to Switzerland. Now here's what happened. I went to a very elite school. So in those days in India, you had the sons of kings and princes and all coming to school. So they would come in their Bentleys and big Mercedeses and Rolls Royces to school with 2 people to feed them and hot lunches and all that. We had cars at home, all of that. But my father said, these are my cars. You take public transport till you can afford a car, okay? And so, and that's what we did. Or we cycled. He said, it builds muscle, it builds strength, cycle to school. So that's what we did for schooling. So, and we were given 3 sets of uniforms at the beginning of a school year, and they had to last us till the end of the school year. Nothing new was ever given to us. And you can imagine all my friends were having new things every day, and here we were. We had nothing to show off with but ourselves. What did that do to us? It made us understand that to make friends, and we were the most popular. Me and my 2 siblings were the most popular in school. We were the brightest students, okay, because we had no distractions, right? So we were doing very well at studies and all of that, and then we had these tools. We only had ourselves to represent and make friends with. So we learned the value of establishing credibility in this world with self-worth rather than with what you had, right? So you built inside yourself this value of self. And that we understood that people are worth more than things, right? So then I went to Switzerland, and once again, I was in Swiss finishing school. Who came there? Children of diplomats, ex-princes, people who were going to be prime ministers of countries, wealthy people, okay? And here I was, this poor girl from India with nothing, right? Nothing to call my own. And so I basically worked in a graveyard. I lived in a graveyard because in Switzerland, you could, in those days, if you cleaned the graveyard and changed the flowers and stuff, you got to stay for free in their house. And I waitressed in pubs. I realized that you make more money in pubs, and they give you free food and free drink. So that's how I lived, right? And by the time I finished my schooling, I already had a tidy sum saved. Finished my schooling, went back to India, and started working in a hotel management school. And then over there, I had so I learned the value of self-reliance very, very young. And over there, I had this mentor, a burly big bear of a man who did not have any compassion for you. Okay, for him, everything at work was just about work and art, and his work was his passion. So I go inside this kitchen to learn training, to train. He gives me the first day. He insulted me because I looked very different, and he said, you will sit on the floor and you will chop 25 kilos of onions. So that's what he made me do on the first day. And then I still did it. So all this helped me to move on with a man like that and still persevere, because he was brilliant at his work, and I wanted to work with him. So then one day, after I was very, very tired, and he tells me, and I started to cry, and I said, you're giving too much work to a woman. And that's the first lesson I learned about, how to build strength as a woman. He said to me, at work, you are a person. You are not a gender. You are taking the place of a person that could be a good worker. If you want to work here, I have no compassion for your tears and your worries about your body. Fix it. Come back if you can, otherwise leave. So I was left with no alternative. I still wanted to do it, so I went back, and I pushed my way through, ultimately became his favorite student. He was my first mentor. He made me a spice barista, okay, and I earned my first $100,000 with a multinational company when I won the contract to sell it, and at the age of 23, right? And so it was worth persevering. It was worth being patient, right? So I had to pay off my debts. I had to respect things. I had to get respect with myself and working as myself. So these were the lessons I learned at that time. Perseverance, patience, the value of struggle. And I want to use this word, change the notion of struggle. If I can help you change that today, is that struggle is something that you battle against. If you look at it as an opportunity, it stops hurting. And I'm standing in front of you. I have battled with life. I have done things. They were tough times. Okay, I have cried my tears. I've had my fears. I've had all of that all of us feel. But I walked through it with confidence. I walked through it with knowing that God is walking beside me, always. All right, then I got married. I met this wonderful man. I was too young. I was too young to be married, but I got married. My parents warned me, don't get married. I got married because they said, you're an ambitious woman. You will have to put your life on hold. Don't get married yet. I said, no, I'm in love. I have to get married. Okay? Made the wrong choice at that point. Well, not the wrong choice with the right man, fortunately for me. But I got stuck. Children came along, everything changed. My whole life was different from the day I got married, right? And so then at some point, everything was a physical challenge. I became pregnant, and then I didn't know how to go to work and work in these difficult environments. So I said, quit. So I sat down with my husband, and we talked about it, and I said, will you bear? And this is how we talked. I said, will you bear the burden, or will you carry the burden of the economic responsibility of the family, while I carry the burden of the social responsibility for our family? So this is what I call complementing each other. This is what I call walking in tandem in life. So we did that. I took a break for 4 or 5 years. And in those 4 or 5 years, I did exactly what I told you to do yesterday. I schooled, I finished a PhD, I did multiple different things to keep myself connected to the working world. But I still stayed back home. I raised my children till they were 6 years old, because it was important to me to make sure that they had a solid upbringing and that they had me all the time, looking and watching for them. I didn't feel guilty when I went back. I did not put my 1-year-old baby or 6-month-old baby into a daycare or into somebody else's care. It was my child, it was my responsibility. I wanted to raise it. And I'm glad I did, because it has made my children very, very strong. And it has made them very, very clear about what it is to be human. So we did that, and I went back, and well, while I was doing that, my daughter had cancer. So we battled through 2 years of immense pain, immense every day of prayer and every day of hope that she'd make it through the next hour. It was tough. It was really tough. But what stayed with me at that time was to say to myself that, this is a moment in time. It'll pass, right? And when it passes, it'll have made the right decisions for you. Whether my daughter survived or not, that was not in my hands. Her birth was not in my hands. Her life was not in my hands. So, but at least I knew that I had to give her hope. So her case, she was the first survivor of her kind of cancer, is in the Harvard medical books as a case in hope in the cure of cancer. Because I was totally committed to getting my child back her health. And that's what we did. So that was a struggle. So pain is a part of life, right? But to choose not to suffer is a choice. And when you choose not to suffer, pain doesn't weaken you, it strengthens you, right? So that was one of the other lessons I learned. And then, I moved on into my career. When I went back into mainstream, nobody wanted me. I had, not worked for so many years. So I said, all right, I'm going to become an entrepreneur, and I'm going to start doing something on my own. But that apart, what I started then to do is I took all sorts of small-time jobs, badly paid and everything, but I did every single job well. I proved it to them that I was capable. And again, it's capacity. You kept building that capacity, and you exuded it out when it was needed. That's all you needed, right? So I did that, and with that, I was ready when I was ready to start a business. So today, where am I today? Okay, I have 5,000 people working for me. I have 4 different businesses. I sustain 4,000 families, their livelihood, and I am able to run a school. I have a beautiful school which provides for the underprivileged. I do multiple things for different societies, not just my own country, because that's another thing I believe in, is that you don't stick, this world is your country. This planet is your country. We don't start differentiating ourselves and draw lines. God doesn't draw lines, so we shouldn't be drawing them. All the territories we make are man-made. We don't need to draw them. So I give to the world wherever I go. I do things, and I contribute to the world. I run a microfinance bank as one of my businesses, where I enable women who work for me to build up savings and to use them in times of need. So different things that you can do. And really, what is my life about? My life is about connecting all the different dots that were happening at different times. All that I didn't allow myself to do is ever worry where I stood. I was happy wherever life landed me, and I took off from that point. I have never worried about what is going to happen tomorrow. I never worry about it. What's even going to happen in the next moment is not in my control. I have this moment, and that's what I want to live fully in. And that's what I urge you to live fully in. That's my story. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.